All right. Hey, everyone. This is Cindy at an open door. Um, According to my little clock, it's March 14th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is the hour where that we have called Reality Check. The intention is a direct experience, and we are using as our finger or as our pointer the words of Helen Hamilton and her book Reality Check. We typically begin with a clip of Helen, and I have one set up that was just published, I think, yesterday. Let me make sure it's grab it. It's called It's Totally Possible to Be Happy Always. It's about 8 minutes long. And so we'll do that. And then we'll open up for whatever wants to be said as it relates to that. And then uh, Livy Shepherd has agreed to read for us, though we've had a lot of people volunteer, which is awesome. And here we go. Unless anybody wants to say anything before we watch the clip. Man, it's good to be here with all of us.
Okay, so Natasha and Rob have the hand up. Natasha, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
I actually wanted to share on Awakening Together last night, but
we kind of ran out of time, didn't we?
We ran out of time, which was absolutely fine. I was just totally blissed out. I feel like that all week, really. It's funny because we did the intensive on Sunday, and there was talk without going into it, but at the beginning about being worthy, and I was really not in a place of much worthiness. And it just sort of transformed over the course of the day. And then I've just been like tripping in this sort of state of synchronicities and just like bliss. I mean, my sense is just enormous gratitude to you, really, how my life in lots of ways is transformed. Nothing's really changed very much. I have more time on my hands, and yeah, like even in the Sangha meetings this week, there was this wonderful synchronicity of love. It was all about love, and I don't know why I picked a certain recording, and then Savita picked a certain something, and it just sort of everything was just the same theme, exactly what you're talking about now, and yesterday talking about desire. And yeah, this sort of sense, all the euphoria almost frightens me. And there was this.
It's a little bit too much. This is a little too much, isn't it? Or it's a lot too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I noticed just now sitting and listening to you, and there was this sort of sense of, wow, you know, this is going to pass. You know, you'll go, it's like this kind of extreme can't last, it can't be sustained. And I could even feel that coming over me with my belief, of course. And then I just relaxed and thought, okay, it's all the Noumenon, so whatever it is all fine. And then there was a resting again, and then it came back.
It surged again, yeah.
Yeah, it surged again.
Can you see there's this in me, there was a small voice that wasn't so small in those moments. It just couldn't quite let myself be loved. Just even though it was already happening and this love was flowing, there was something that said, yeah, but you better not get used to this or allow it fully, or something's going to go wrong, or, you know, something. It wasn't even a clear voice. It was just a yes, but.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like I've got to crash. Yeah. It's a bit like that you're sort of, I'm riding away.
yeah, I can't just live like this. This is not possible. Some kind of, I hit this real barrier of, you can't just be in love and joy and peace the whole time. You know, that's just not how human beings live. Some kind of real disbelief it came up as it really began to surge. And I just kind of had to remind myself that this is just my natural state reasserting itself. Everyone's natural state. Just because it feels totally abnormal doesn't mean it's not our natural state. It feels abnormal to be swimming around in love, doesn't it? And not need to defend myself from the world.
I think that's key, isn't it?
And this yes, but is just a very tiny defense mechanism. You know, some kind of, I'd better just keep a hold of some ability to close myself just in case.
Yeah.
Something like that.
How far can I trust
Yeah.
this?
And ultimately, if I let this in and then it goes, I will be heartbroken. You know, and we've all had this kind of experience, haven't we? But really seeing it's only my own thoughts that can obscure this, and just surrendering into it. I don't want to guard myself from this. I'm so tired of guarding myself from this. I'd like to allow it more. I'd like to see actually what it's possible to live like. Other beings have done it, so it must be possible for me. And it's not necessarily true that to walk around closed is actually safer or happier, is it? That hasn't really worked. It never worked for me. It made me miserable. Got me into some right messes as well. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I've seen it in everything this week. In the people I meet, I think about them and then I meet them. An opportunity arises to reconnect with someone. Yeah. And I take the step and everything's just working out.
Life is just trying to give us all of this good stuff, but we've lost our ability temporarily to trust it, haven't we? We have to relearn that step by step. What if life is actually working for me? I've just been experiencing my thoughts about the fact that it isn't, over and over again, that it isn't safe to trust. We've all got experiences. We could say, yes, but this bad thing happened when I opened up. But only because of this idea that the universe is unfriendly or something, isn't it? That it's out to get me, you know, that life is hard, and all these beliefs come to the surface as a reason not to let this love in. That sounds like you're done with those.
So those bad or challenging experiences then are also just part of everything too.
Yeah, I imagined myself to be a small and vulnerable being, so life had to agree with me. And because I kept experiencing it, I felt even more justified in closing off and defending. And then I kept experiencing it even more, and it just kind of spiraled from there. So there's a certain amount of just releasing my defenses to life, just because I don't want to live my life through some filter anymore. I don't want to diminish my experience of all of this. And I don't want to leave this body with my last thought being, I wish I'd opened up more.
Yeah.
You know, that just became unbearable for me. The idea that the last breath in this body would be some kind of regret. You know, mostly about awakening, of course. And I just decided in the end, I'm going to go all out. I'm just going to see how much I can love myself just by talking to myself nicer each day. See what effect that has. And within 30 days, I was just kind of swimming around in bliss. I didn't know what to do with myself, and in a good way.
Yeah.
And everyone else loves it around you as well. They all just fall in love with it. They drink it completely. And you have all these wonderful meetings and synchronicities, like we were saying.
Yeah.
Once you get on an upward spiral, it's easier to stay on it then, isn't it? You've done the hard work now. Just notice when something wants to protect or close, and be sneaky sometimes. Wonderful. Well done. And thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Lovely.
All right. So is there anything anyone would like to say before please, Patricia, before we begin to read?
I loved the exercises for 30 days, talking to oneself in loving ways. I thought that was wonderful. I'm going to try it. I'll let you know. Thank you.
I'm with you on that, Patricia. That struck me too. I'm doing it.
Please, Sandra.
Good morning, everybody. I loved everything about this clip, every single little bit. The words swimming around in bliss, just what I think I like most is that the affirmation that we can live like this. So often I think we tell each other, this can't last, or, I mean, even some of the non-dual teachers say, well, that's just a temporary state. And it has kept me from verbalizing how truly beautiful life is, in a way, because I was being told, I think I was being told, or maybe I just misunderstood it, that that's just another object you're creating, or that's just another concept. When it really isn't, it's just my experience. And so I just felt reaffirmed by that in this clip. I felt, yes, yes, yes. And it doesn't really matter if anybody else understands or feels it. It really doesn't. I can just enjoy life. I mean, even I didn't catch her name, but the woman who was asking about it, even when the yeah but voice comes in, that's even part of it. So I get to see that. I get to see that voice kind of wants to pull me back out of, not pull me back out, pull me into more, I don't know. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing. I confess she pushed a couple of my the things I notice here. One of them is, it's not really safe to be happy. And to express that fully in the world. That's just something that's weakening here, but it was something that I either had been brought into the world with or I was taught. And I could give you the 10,000 reasons how I was taught that it wasn't safe to be fully open and fully exposed in my joy and happiness. Her pointing to that. I felt it very deeply that it is actually safer and that the idea that it is more beneficial to stay closed. When she used that word closed, immediately all of Michael Singer's teachings lit up for me, because that's a huge part of his teaching in the Untethered Soul, is to get that heart open and keep it open, and it's safe to feel what's there, and it will be processed, but closing it is a prison. So I just sunk into my willingness. And the other part is, this idea that happiness is fleeting, but not our normal natural state, was also something that as a human being and in the world that I grew up in was taught that that's true, that, you could be happy in an experience, but the idea of being happy in life is not something that was celebrated. So I appreciated a lot of what pretty much like you, Sandra, everything that she just said. Yeah. Is there more that wants to be said, or shall we read? I was just noticing Dave.
I think I just want to tell you, my friends, that there is nothing to be afraid of. There is absolutely nothing. Nothing. It's so trustworthy. Nothing to fear at all. And you're innocent. Everyone is innocent. We're all innocent. There's nothing to regret. And I don't know why I'm saying this, but that's okay. Okay, that's it.
I was going to say, I'm noticing that David's not here because David loves Libby's voice, always comments on it. Patricia, please.
There. Sorry. It is so good to be here with all of you, by the way. I just love you. What I was thinking, I had a reaction to when Sandra said, there's nothing to fear. One can be innocent. There's nothing to fear. I had an immediate thought, which is, in this world, there's nothing to fear. And then I thought, well, that's worth a think or a rethink or a re-establishing, let's put it that way, that indeed it's true. The world is fearful to me, and I don't trust it. So thank you for that reminder, Sandra. Appreciate it.
Hey, Richard.
Morning, everyone. I love the book. I mean, this is the third time I've listened to it, so I really love it. And a number of things come to mind. I would ask all course students to refer to the manual, and I think a manual for teachers, I think it's paragraph 8 or section 8 on the characteristics of advanced teachers of God. And the first characteristic is trust. And there are 6 stages to trust. And when you read that, you read how we evolve in the course's terminology with trust. And I found it very helpful. I recently listened to a podcast with Keith Avenall on the 6 stages of trust, and it was very helpful. And the other thing I wanted to mention about loving the self, I recently came across another short, small book that took the original secret to another level. And in this book, it talked about being able to help others in the dream by just embracing them with love. And there's a process you go through. And then I realized, why don't I embrace myself? Why don't I try every day, instead of embracing others with love and light, why don't I embrace myself with love and light? And I find that very helpful and very much in line with what Helen was sharing in that tape. And so if you would like, I'll share that book with you. I'm not trying to sell books, by the way, but they really seem to help me. And it takes this secret, which I didn't really like when it came out because I thought it was more ego-based than spirituality-based. But this moves it to another, I don't know, the title of the book is The Greatest Metaphysical Principle in the World. And here's what it looks like. Can you see that?
Can you type in the author for us?
Well, it's Candace Cornelian Sage, but I'll type it in the chat. But chapter 4, it's a very small book. Chapter 4 is a process where you actually go through this technique of embracing others and with love. And I found it very helpful. Love you all. Glad to be here.
Glad that you're here. Is there more before we read? All right. I am going to share the screen and then I'll show you what's been highlighted here. But somebody will tell us where we decided to start. This is where I open the book, where I close the book. You will experience nothing at all, and this is the perfect answer. Is that where, does anybody know that we should begin elsewhere?
I think we read through the questions, but I don't know. Amy, what do you think? I thought we read through the questions, but we should go to the paragraph right before that where it says, ask the question again. I don't know.
What page is that?
Well, I can tell you in the Kindle,
6
it's
and
page
7.
Yeah, it's page 7, and I think we should go through the questions again. Yeah.
All right. So, Livy, can you begin with ask the question again?
I can.
And in case anyone here can unmute, please don't just raise your hand because I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the screen. Just unmute and say, I would love for us to stop here. And Livy, of course, we all have this equal, when we feel it in us to stop and discuss, that's when we stop and discuss.
Sounds
We're all
good.
equal. Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank y'all. Really grateful to be here this morning. Ask the question again and see what you find. You will find the same thing again and every single time you ask. It is just you, and you are formless and everywhere. If you stay in that direct experience and ask some questions of yourself based on that nothingness, you may be surprised at what you find. Are you tangible or intangible? Are you over here or over there? Do you have any shape or color? Where exactly are you? Are you changing, growing, becoming here as this vastness? What time is it in the vastness? How far do you reach and where do you end? Do you end at all? When did this vastness that you are appear? When will it disappear? Were you born as this? When did you start? Is there you and another person here? Where do you stop and the person next to you start? I just got chills on that one. These questions may seem difficult to answer at first, but if you will continue to ask them, you will soon find you begin to make some breakthroughs. As you go about your daily life, you may notice that everything seems different now that you have seen what you really are. Our whole lives as human beings are based on the assumption that we are a separate person, someone who is moving around in time and space and living out a life for 70, 80, or 90 years before we leave this planet. It can be quite a shock to realize that is not so. Before we have fully understood what it means to be formless, it may seem that life out here feels pointless and insignificant. You may find yourself wondering, what use is all this world then? What is the reason for my existence if I am not what I thought I am? If such feelings arise, you can know that it is only a temporary phase of adjustment to your new way of perceiving yourself, and that once you fully realize what you are, you will know the answer to these questions. As human beings, we are taught to value the familiar, the known, and the safe thoughts. And when we suddenly find that what we know to be challenged, we can feel insecure for a time. It can help to realize that what we thought we knew about ourselves was never actually true, but we have been fooled into thinking so. You are only coming to see how it has always been. It is safest to work from direct experience of what you can prove inside yourself, rather than base your life on assumptions that have never been questioned until now. Take some time to consider the questions listed in this chapter. Try to find an answer, but do not worry if you cannot answer them all at this point. The answers will reveal themselves as you progress to the next chapters. Your understanding of what you are, what reality is, will deepen as you continue to read. To continue to progress to the deeper stages of enlightenment, we must be willing to realize that what we have called our life has been based on assumptions that are not true. We have based our whole experience on the idea that, quote, I am so-and-so, a human being living in the world with family, friends, relationships, a job, and an endpoint, end quote. For some people, it will take a while to come to terms with the fact that none of this has been true. You were never limited, lost, or separate from everything and everyone. Some people that read this will immediately be unable to tolerate any lies within themselves about their origin and the nature of their existence, and they will be driven by an urge to find out the whole truth and live as and from that truth. Others that read this will face too much resistance from their old and familiar ways of thinking about themselves, and so may stop reading this, lose the book somehow, or get distracted until a much later time. Any of these options is fine for once the truth has been revealed to you. It is only a matter of time before the want arises in you to fully comprehend what you are and what all this world is. This desire will become stronger until it seems to be the only thing that matters.
How about we take a pause?
And I just wanted to, or do we want to pause for a minute, let that sink in? But what this reminds me of, it just, the ego thoughts that want me to stay separate have been getting louder recently. Like, I'll come to these meetings and I'll be with everyone, and then the old thoughts of, now, but you need to behave a certain way because we need their validation. You have to have everybody else's validation to know that you're worthy. And these voices are getting really, really loud. And I wrote some of them down last night. And then I remember Helen, this is a gift. When they're getting this loud and it's getting extraordinarily uncomfortable, that's when it's a gift. And to stay with that and to stay with everybody and with this reading to confirm that I'm not a separate being. And those thoughts are just been so conditioned from when I was a little girl. And they're somebody else's thoughts and beliefs. They're not even mine. And, those, they are passed down. And I got to inherit them, lucky me. And lucky me that I have this group and that I recognize that's not the truth of who I am. And I have the work of Byron Katie and all these other teachers that, question these thoughts. Is that true? Who would you be without those thoughts? And got some additional questions in Awakening Together on Wednesday that are extraordinarily helpful. So I am willing to be extraordinarily uncomfortable while the beliefs, set in. It's just like these old ways of thinking and feeling, because my body will react before the thoughts do. And just recognize that and understand, oh, that's just me trying to control again. Oh, that's fear again. Well, what have I learned? I learned I can say, please heal these fear-based thoughts. I have these replays I can go and listen to, and I have books like this, and I have Helen, and all these wonderful, wonderful teachers. And a friend had given me a sweatshirt years ago that says, treat yourself like someone you love. And, I may put that on my windows or around the house somewhere, but I feel like I'm rambling, but it's just really, this is just, as Helen said, it's just a really important time for me, to be willing to be uncomfortable with it and to be willing to write down, okay, what are the thoughts, and to be really gentle with my body as it reacts in its usual way. And so, yeah. So just wanted to share all that and come clean. So I'm just really, really grateful for this book and for y'all. Thank you.
Becoming clearer and clearer why the collective consciousness has you reading today. Thank you for that. Izzy.
Thank you so much, Livy, for sharing that. For years, I'd get off these meetings and I'd go and second guess everything I'd say. I wondered if it came out right. And I've always wondered if other people do the same thing. And so thank you for saying that. It's fallen away lately. Thank God it's fallen away, but for the most part. And but thanks for saying that.
Hey, Rana. Thank you, Izzy.
Hey, hi, everyone. Grateful to be here. So the question that has been sticky here from what we just read is, were you born as this? When did you start? And if I just sit back and sink into this direct experience, there's never been a time that I wasn't here. There's no start feeling to it. And so that kind of shakes what the mind thinks to be true. March 29, 1967 was the day supposedly I appeared, but I don't remember that event. I just recall being here. So that's what I'm sitting with this morning, and it's kind of juicy. Thank you.
Oh, Amy, please.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rana. This is what I love about the non-dual teachings, is to have your experience. And the answer to the question, no, there's never a time that I can remember not being here. I find myself questioning that question itself. It's like, so if I wasn't here, I wouldn't remember, right? But I don't, so I go back, and when I'm asleep, do I remember being there, wherever I am? and yet I wake up. So there must be some continuity between deep sleep and wakefulness. Otherwise, I wouldn't reawaken. But just because I don't remember a time of not being here doesn't quite give me the assurance, the full assurance that I will always be. I find that just lacking in some way, and I can't get to the heart of it.
If I may add, what just rises here is that fear of the future, right? That I won't be. Like the direct experiences is that I is, but then the mind comes in and says, yeah, but what about later?
Well, if that I see your point. If that's true, I think for me, what I really want is to know the truth. And so that question and the answer don't quite get to the truth for me. I'm like, there's got to be something more.
So what rose here was truth is, right? And we want more than is.
Well, the question does arise, though.
Isn't this fun?
Thank you, Rana.
So I got an invitation just based on the teachings. Livy's about to speak. And the invitation is, one of her questions is, where do I end and the other begin? So as Livy speaks, why not look for the direct experience? Just see if you can identify the separation between receiving the words and do you know what I mean? Like supposedly the mind will tell you somebody else is speaking and I get to interpret what it means to me. See if you can find the edge. Who's speaking to whom? All right, Libby.
And Richard, we saw your hand go down, so yeah, you're not getting away. No, what this made me think about is some of the stuff that Dr. Miller had said, like what I want is only based on today's information backward. It's all historically driven. What might be in store if I'm in dialogue with Source or the oneness, seeing what unfolds before me has information that I get to discover. So giving up what I want should be a relief, and then life becomes a great spiritual adventure. What is life showing me now? The awakened brain is our innate capacity to be an open system, and each day I don't know what's going to happen. Each day I can't control what's going to happen, but rather than fear uncertainty, rather than be frustrated, I don't have to control, or that I let this ball slip out of my hands, or I didn't get something I wanted. What is life showing me now? What is the universe revealing to me now? And so that just made me think about that, you know, of her saying that, just being open to the unknown. And that made sense when I went to read it, and I'm not sure if it's in line with what we're discussing right now, but that did, you know, just come up in my awareness. And so just wanted to bring that in, that, you know, it is a spiritual adventure, and being willing to be in the uncertainty of everything. And that was kind of affirming in a lot of ways for me when she said that. So anyway, just thought I'd share that.
Thank you. One thing that pops up before I hand things to Richard and then to Sandra. One of Izzy was asking me about the guides. One of the things that the guides have done for me is when I hear that word unknown, I notice that the ego wants to know. So what the guides have taught me is that there is no such thing as something that is unknown in truth. What it is beyond the known of my current awareness. And so And they've also taught me, based on what you just said, Libby, and where we are, is that I can be in the known of truth, and all it will cost me is my history. Am I willing to surrender my past and my history, not to have it disappear? They don't state that it'll go away. I will always be who I am. But what they are offering is the opportunity for everything that we call our history. And by our history, I mean mine and my family's and the human collective can be renowned in this field of love and above. Am I willing for that to happen? And all I can do from my current point of view is say yes to it, because the actual experience of the undoing happens in that space beyond the known. Hey, Sandra. Oh, no. Richard.
You ain't getting away with this, Ruth. Well, what came to mind about now I'm trying to recollect my thoughts. The fear of being wrong, or of, I know myself, when I learned that I was pure, unadulterated, unconditional love, that I was in fact, I am, that I was in fact infinite, that coming to that belief was really nice. But the question I had to ask myself, do I trust my new self? And what if I express my new self to others who are not on my path? They'll think I'm a fucking idiot. So I had to courage up and say, I don't give a shit what they think. I'm going to be who I am, and that, if they don't like it, tough. But that was, and then I had to think, well, that doesn't sound very loving. I mean, so what is it? I had to soften my language. I softened my intent, but that was part of my learning. And but I know for me it was conditioning from when I was a little child. I think I've shared before, my father died when I was made the man of the house. I had my mother and two younger sisters, and I was taught that the world is a tough place. You have to be strong. You have to be forthright. Many of the male qualities that are now coming under a lot of negative thoughts about what it means to be a male, or I was raised that way. I'm still that way. So I have courage to walk into places where other people seldom walk. And that's because of my conditioning, and also because of my being raised as a human being, a male of the species of the humankind. So that helped me along with that. So again, it goes back to trust, I think. For me, it was trust. Do I really trust what I believe now versus what I believed then? Do I really believe all this crap about is it all an illusion? And who cares what I believe? I don't even care what I believe. So what do I care what others think about me? My being this is not dependent on the good intentions of others. My happiness is not dependent on the good intention of others. My happiness and my life is dependent on me. Whatever I define me to be, whether as infinite or finite or self, the little self or the big S self, it doesn't matter. So I just felt I needed to share that.
I needed to hear it. You reminded me of Francis Lucille laughing as he said, "Truth is not a democracy." Hey, Sandra, the floor is yours.
It's so fun to be here. It's just fun in a way because I don't know why. So let me see if I can remember why I raised my hand. Oh yes, okay. So when Libby was first speaking earlier, what came to my mind, and then she just added to that with what we heard from Dr. Miller. So she was describing this feeling that was uncomfortable earlier, right? It's like it was uncomfortable to be in the space. And I realized that what's happening now is what I used to think. I put the label uncomfortable on a feeling, an emotion, sensations, thoughts, is now experienced as something different than the word uncomfortable and all the meanings I used to give it. So how does that relate to what Dr. Miller was telling us? She was saying, be open, be open. What you think you want to feel comfortable, what you think you want may not be your highest gift. There's something more for us than what we think we want. I just loved that, didn't you? And then, so applying it to this situation, maybe the sensations that we used to call uncomfortable are this enormous gift to experience. And to say, oh, here I am, I get to feel that now, whatever that is. And maybe, we put words on these things to communicate about them. We all know what uncomfortable means to us in our human forms. So we know how you felt, but then what if that's not what it is? This is very hard to communicate, but that's okay. Richard has given me license to say whatever I want to say.
It's making perfect sense.
And not care what you think. Which I love that, because that is happening, definitely. Yes, that is happening. Those old, oh, I have to fit in kind of feelings are like, I know I'm not going to fit in now. But I also know where I can say these things. So, yes, just being open to life and also so I have to say that the Tao is permeating my being as well. So, there is that feeling, yes, it's just another one of life's gifts. Let me just soak in that one for a while. And it loses all those, what I used to call uncomfortable, rage, whatever, all those feelings that I wasn't supposed to have if I was a spiritual being. They've all lost their sting. There's no sting to them anymore. There's no uncomfortableness to them anymore. And they're here for me. That's just another one of those gifts wrapped in a package that I don't recognize as a gift. And that's how living has become less fearful. Is all fear gone? No. It still tries to come in, but it's all experienced differently with a kind of beauty that I've spoken of before. Okay, thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing. Part of what was happening here while I was listening to you is you transported me back to a different life 30 years ago when I used to act as a teacher's assistant in the Dale Carnegie courses. I was very involved with them for a while. And that's where I learned that our comfort zone was our prison. And in order to expand our comfort zone, we have to be willing to step out and become uncomfortable. And that's where I learned to get very excited about being uncomfortable because I was creating a more expanded comfort zone. If that makes sense. So that word uncomfortable no longer it doesn't have a negative connotation. It means that I'm breaking the walls of my prison and creating a larger prison, if that makes sense. Hi.
Unmute. There we go. Hello. Oh God, this has been so amazing. I'm going back to the video because talk about uncomfort and comfort, and this thoughts. I take notes. I have no idea where all this stuff comes from, but somebody was talking about chapter 5 in the course and saying the undoing process does not come from you, but it is in your mind. And you need to return to your thinking to the point where the error was made. That's the same thing as it said in another part in the course where, I must have made a wrong decision because I don't feel peace now. And the decision was mine, so I can make a different decision. And returning to the place where the error happened, and to go back to that video, and isn't it the widely spread belief in this world, and you get beaten over the head with it literally, physically, that it is not possible to be happy. Maybe not at all, or maybe just a little bit. But that whole video was about happiness all the time, peace all the time. And that message that is not possible is really drilled into us. And that's go back to the point where the error is made, because that is an error right there. And long ago, I read this book, was really good. Barry Neil Kaufman, and it was called To Love Is to Be Happy With. And he had these 3 questions you would ask yourself, and you could do this on anything. It's free. I think this book is free online. and the questions were, what about this situation is upsetting you? And then when you answer that question, it said, and what about that? First question is, what are you unhappy about now? 2, what about this situation upsets you? 3, what about that? And then you say the answer. And what about that? And then you say the answer. And then you get down to the place where the error occurred, which is the belief that this or that or the other thing. I know I'll make this a fast story. My husband was furious at my daughter, and I worked this on him, and we got down to the bottom of what he believed. That he believed if he was a good enough father, my daughter wouldn't act the way she was acting. And so then when you get down to this completely irrational and totally incorrect belief, you can go, wait, do I really believe that? And the answer was always no. And then the other question you could ask yourself is, what would happen, or what am I afraid would happen if I didn't believe that? So what are we afraid would happen if you don't believe that you can't be happy all the time? Wait a minute, I maybe did too many negatives. So, but this is Helen saying yes. And, and I believe that. I believe you can be happy all the time. And the trick of it might be treating yourself like someone you love, that just might be it. I love you all. This is so great. Thank you.
Love you. And again, like right before we hit record, as he was asking me what I love about the guides. So I'd like to give you the guides response, which for me is identical to the course and so much else of what we teach. The guides state unequivocally that all separation is the denial of the divine. Those are the words that they use. So all separation is the denial of the divine. The all separation also is fear. Without fear, there is no feeding the separation. And then, being a good course student, God is love, right? And fear is the absence of love. So where does fear exist? And then, because my world and my teachers are a tapestry, Joel Goldsmith's voice, I hear the only place that the world of separation exists is in the mesmerism or the mirage. Or for me, I immediately see the ocean that blocks the desert road. And the mesmerism is very strong. So when we hang out in this energy, we get to say and look and go, wow, there's fear here. Where does it exist? It exists in the belief in separation, that somehow who I am is going to be attacked if I expose myself. What is separation? It's the denial of the divine. But God simply is. Where is God not? Oh, in the mesmerism, in the ocean that blocks the desert road. And where am I? I choose to know myself in truth. God simply is. With that, the hour has ended. I am going to stop the recording, but not before I say, love us. Love us. I love us. Thank you so much for whatever it is we just did.